In the Bay Area, not all the homeless are camping in doorways, asleep on the sidewalk, or wandering the streets.
Growing numbers are actually invisible. These are homeless families who feel shame and some fear about their situation.
For years, experts warned that the housing market would break, and now it finally has. Nearly half of U.S. renters are one missed paycheck from eviction. And with rent rising faster than wages, thousands every week are trading houses and apartments for RVs, vans, and whatever shelter they can find. Welcome to the new American reality, living on wheels because the ground has become too expensive to stand on. For the first time in modern history, over 40% of American renters are officially cost-burdened, spending more than 30% of their income just to keep a roof overhead. The crisis runs deeper. 1 in 4 renters now spends over 50% of income on rent, trapping millions in survival mode. Close to 22 million U.S. households fall into these categories, with the trend exploding since 2020. Median household income hasn't kept pace. Wages grew less than 17% since 2010, while rental prices in major metros surged 40% to over 100%, depending on location. Miami rent doubled. Phoenix and Las Vegas saw 60 to 80% jumps. Even Midwest cities like Kansas City and Columbus report 30 to 50% spikes. When rent rises faster than earnings, something breaks. Families once living paycheck to paycheck now pay paycheck to rent. Those falling behind aren't skipping luxuries. They're cutting healthcare, groceries, car repairs, and utilities. Housing has become the biggest bill Americans pay, pushing millions toward financial collapse. The 40% statistic isn't theoretical. It's a warning that the middle class is tipping into poverty at scale. When working families can't afford basic shelter despite full-time employment, the foundation of economic stability crumbles. This isn't just a housing problem. It's a national emergency reshaping how millions survive. The numbers reveal a system failing ordinary Americans who play by the rules but still can't win. Housing experts warned this would happen, but nobody believed them. In 2010, national median rent hovered between $800 and $900 monthly. Today, in 2026, typical renters pay $1,800 to $2,200 monthly, with hot markets exceeding $3,000. That's a 100 to 150% increase in less than 15 years, the steepest jump in recorded U.S. history outside wartime inflation. Cities like Tampa, Dallas, Charlotte, Phoenix, and Salt Lake City, once considered affordable, saw shocking 60 to 75% increases just since 2019. Meanwhile, new apartments entering markets are luxury units with granite countertops and rooftop pools, costing $2,400 to $3,500 plus monthly. Only 7% of new rentals built qualify as affordable housing, and most never reach low-income households due to long waiting lists and strict qualification rules. Supply is growing, but not where ordinary people live. Rents increased not because buildings magically improved, but because millions competed for too few homes. Immigration growth, work-from-home relocations, and Wall Street investors buying single-family houses poured gasoline on the fire. The result? A modern renter's trap. Even if rent stopped rising today, which it won't, wages would still take years or decades to catch up. That's why so many Americans are at breaking point. The math simply doesn't work anymore for working families trying to secure basic shelter in their own country. Here's the biggest myth. People can't afford rent because they don't work hard enough. The truth is harsher. Wages in America barely moved in 20 years, increasing only 15 to 20% total for most occupations since 2005. Meanwhile, rent increased 50 to 120% in the same period, depending on region. An average worker earning $18 to $22 hourly brings home roughly $2,500 to $3,000 monthly after taxes, but rent alone consumes $1,800 to $2,800 depending on city. That means millions of Americans work full-time and still fall short. Household incomes rose slowly, but inflation on necessities skyrocketed. Groceries up 27%, childcare up 40%, insurance up 30%, and utilities rising 10 to 35% in many states. When every cost rises but paychecks don't, it creates an economic squeeze with no escape route. Younger workers got hit hardest. Millennials and Gen Z earn 9 to 12% less, adjusted for inflation, than their parents did at the same age. When wages fall behind, people can't build emergency savings, move to better areas, or keep up with deposits and fees. That's why millions are one missed paycheck from eviction, and why so many Americans are trading apartments for RVs, vans, and cars. Not because they want adventure, but because the math no longer works for working people trying to maintain basic housing stability. America is seeing something unprecedented. Working, middle-income families being priced out of housing completely. Today, over 8 million renters report falling behind on rent, and nearly 3.6 million received eviction notices in 2025 alone, the highest number in U.S. history. When households fall behind, they quickly discover there's no safety net. Housing waiting lists stretch years long. Emergency shelters are full. Affordable housing construction is too slow. And Section 8 vouchers cover less than 25% of applicants nationwide, meaning 3 out of 4 families who qualify for help get nothing. With nowhere else to go, families turn to vehicles, RVs, storage units, weekly motels, and couch surfing. This isn't just in big cities. Rural states like Montana, Wyoming, and Arkansas see homeless numbers rising faster than Los Angeles or New York. The profile of the displaced is changing. Nurses, truckers, teachers, delivery drivers, retail workers, and military veterans are being pushed into mobile living. The U.S. is entering what experts call the functional middle-class eviction, where normal working incomes no longer guarantee housing access. The system isn't just strained, it's failing millions at once. Traditional pathways to stable housing have collapsed for working Americans who never imagined they'd face homelessness despite full-time employment. The crisis is no longer limited to those without jobs. It's consuming people who do everything right. 10 years ago, living in an RV full-time was a lifestyle choice. Now it's increasingly a survival strategy. What's shocking is who is ending up in mobile housing. The fastest growing demographic entering RV life isn't travelers or retirees, it's working families, senior citizens, single mothers, and veterans. Nearly 600,000 seniors over age 60 now live in RVs, vans, or cars because Social Security, averaging $1,700 monthly, no longer covers rent. Over 1.2 million children are estimated living in temporary vehicles, campgrounds, or short-stay motels, according to school district homeless records. This crisis is visible everywhere. Parking lots, rest stops, fairgrounds, state forests, and low-cost RV parks. Many of these people still have jobs. Warehouse employees, delivery drivers, retail workers, medical assistants, but cannot find housing within commuting distance. Meanwhile, thousands of veterans, nearly 10% of all vehicle dwellers, have slipped into RV living after benefit gaps and housing shortages. This emerging population doesn't fit old stereotypes of homelessness. These are everyday Americans who were stable, housed, and contributing to society, until housing inflation pushed them out completely. For many, an RV wasn't a dream. It was the last affordable home left. The demographic shift reveals that America's housing crisis is no longer affecting just the margins. It's consuming the mainstream. For millions of Americans priced out of traditional rentals, an RV has become the least expensive last resort home. On paper, it looks cheaper. Instead of paying $2,000 monthly for rent, many believe they can cut that down to $300 to $800 by parking at campgrounds, staying on public land, or bouncing between low-cost sites. The number of Americans living full-time in RVs has tripled since 2016, jumping from around 700,000 to well over 2.1 million, with another 1 to 1.5 million living in vans or cars. People with steady work, from Amazon warehouse employees to school teachers, are being forced into this mobile housing alternative. The appeal is simple: small down payment cost and immediate occupancy. Used RVs, once $5,000 to $10,000, now cost $12,000 to $25,000 because demand exploded. Families buy older rigs with cash instead of being locked into leases they can't sustain. Others rent RVs monthly instead of apartments. RV living also eliminates many upfront costs like deposits, application fees, and credit checks. But the shift isn't lifestyle-driven, it's survival-driven. Most who go mobile didn't dream of road trips or freedom. They were forced into wheels after being financially cornered by landlords, inflated rents, and stagnant wages. What used to be a recreational vehicle is now America's fastest-growing housing segment. Not by choice, but necessity. Many families entering RV life discover a harsh truth. Living on wheels is no longer the cheap option. Gasoline prices average $3.60 to $5.80 per gallon depending on region, and a single cross-state move can burn $300 to $600 just in fuel. Monthly RV park rates have skyrocketed as owners capitalize on demand. Sites once costing $350 to $500 monthly now average $850 to $1,400, especially near cities. Even weekly motel-style RV parks charge $250 to $350 per week, costing more than rent in some areas. Then there's maintenance. Old RVs need constant repairs. Water pumps, propane systems, roofs, tires, and a major breakdown can cost $2,000 to $7,000, wiping out many families instantly. Insurance adds $60 to $150 monthly, and mobile internet can run $100 to $200 for those working remotely or homeschooling children. Add groceries, propane refills, and laundry costs, and many RV dwellers soon spend $2,200 to $2,800 monthly, dangerously close to the rent they were running from. The cruel irony: many leave apartments to save money and end up spending just as much, but with more instability and fewer safety nets. The affordability of RV life has evaporated. What was once a cheaper alternative has turned into a financial tightrope. One breakdown, one winter storm, or one campground eviction away from sleeping on streets. Instead of recognizing the housing emergency, many U.S. cities treat RV homelessness as a problem to remove rather than solve. Since 2021, over 230 cities nationwide have passed new ordinances targeting people living in vehicles. These include bans on overnight parking between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., towing RVs from public streets, enforcing 72-hour parking limits, and even confiscating vehicles used as shelter. Los Angeles alone reported towing over 1,650 lived-in RVs last year, many destroyed, leaving residents instantly unsheltered. In Oregon, police ticketed or removed more than 3,200 vehicles, while Phoenix, Austin, and Denver passed similar legislation. Cities call these public health or safety measures, but advocates argue they simply push people into forests, deserts, and industrial zones. None of these laws address root causes: rising rent, job loss, inflation, and lack of affordable housing. Worse, towing someone's RV often means they lose their home permanently. Since impound fees can run $1,500 to $4,000, amounts most cannot pay. Instead of investing in services, shelters, or safe parking zones, many municipalities rely on fines, police sweeps, and property removal. The message received by America's vehicle dwellers is chillingly clear: you're not wanted anywhere. The crackdown isn't slowing the movement. It's simply making homelessness harder to survive while ignoring the crisis driving it. Campgrounds used to be vacation spots. Now they're turning into full-time neighborhoods. As rent explodes, long-term RV sites are replacing traditional apartments, especially in states like Texas, Florida, Arizona, Washington, and Tennessee. Across the country, RV parks report 90 to 100% annual occupancy, with waiting lists stretching weeks or months. Many campgrounds are shifting business models. Monthly rates have doubled in 5 years, jumping from $450 to $600 to $900 to $1,400, making them nearly indistinguishable from apartment rents. Families prefer them because they require no lease, no credit check, and no security deposit, removing barriers that shut people out of rentals. As demand surges, new RV parks are being built, but not fast enough. The U.S. adds only around 600 to 900 new RV park sites per year, while tens of thousands more RVs enter circulation. This imbalance is turning RV parks into crowded, overextended living hubs where people stay for years, not weeks. A growing number of children now attend school from campgrounds, and some school buses have added RV parks to their routes. What was once a seasonal industry has transformed into an unofficial housing system, one that cities rely on but refuse to acknowledge. RV parks have quietly become America's safety valve for millions priced out of homes, and they're bursting at the seams. As campgrounds overflow and rents soar, people living in RVs, vans, and cars spill into public spaces not meant for long-term survival. Across the western United States, BLM land and national forests now host thousands of long-term stayers, far beyond recreational capacity. In Colorado's San Luis Valley and Arizona's desert regions, entire informal RV settlements stretch for miles. Over 2,000 Walmarts nationwide once allowed overnight parking. Today, more than half have banned it due to rising crowds, trash, and complaints. Truck stops and rest areas, designed for short-term use, are increasingly crowded with full-time residents who rotate between locations to avoid citations. Park rangers report a massive increase in overstay violations, with some areas hit with 20 to 40% more long-term campers in just 3 years. Popular boondocking areas like Quartzsite, Lake Mead, and Joshua Tree are seeing unprecedented pressure on water, sanitation, and trash systems. The overflow is creating friction among travelers, locals, and authorities. National parks are not equipped to function as emergency housing units, yet that's what they're becoming. Once temporary spaces are now becoming permanent addresses, another sign that America's housing crisis is no longer contained. It's now spilling into every corner of public land, overwhelming infrastructure never designed to support permanent populations living in survival mode. America's senior population is walking into a financial firestorm. Nearly 12,000 people turn 65 every day, and many step straight into poverty, not retirement. The average Social Security check is just $1,709 monthly, yet median rent sits around $1,800 to $2,200, meaning millions of seniors are already underwater before paying for food, medication, or utilities. Housing costs have risen over 60% since 2010, while Social Security COLA increases barely covered 20 to 25% of inflation over that same period. More than 600,000 Americans over 60 now live in RVs, vans, or cars, a number growing every year. These aren't tourists traveling the country. Many are widows, disabled veterans, elderly workers laid off too early, and people whose retirement savings vanished during job loss or medical emergencies. Prescription drug costs alone average $300 to $600 monthly, swallowing the remainder of fixed income. Rent isn't just unaffordable, it's mathematically impossible. Some seniors rely on $20 campground sites, free overnight parking, or rotate between church lots, national forests, and rest stops to stretch survival. Many choose RVs because they at least provide privacy and a roof, unlike shelters. America wasn't built with housing for aging boomers, and the price is being paid in mobility and instability. The new tragedy: retirement homes on wheels not by dream, but by force. A growing number of American children are being raised without a permanent address. School districts across the country report that over 1.2 million students are classified as homeless, living in vehicles, motels, or temporary RV parks. Many districts have added RV parks to school bus routes. Parents working 2 or 3 jobs can't cover rent, but manage to buy a used RV or van to keep the family together. Campgrounds report a noticeable increase in long-stay families, with kids using bathhouses to prepare for school and Wi-Fi rooms functioning as makeshift classrooms. The pandemic normalized homeschooling and online work, accelerating the shift. But for RV families, schooling from the road is often about necessity, not choice. Mobile internet costs $120 to $200 monthly, a heavy burden for low-income families. Yet without it, children fall behind. Many kids live in kitty corners, tiny bunks inside camper trailers, sharing limited space with siblings, pets, and parents working unusual hours. Mental health professionals warn of developmental impacts, lack of stability, frequent moves, and unpredictable living situations. Yet families choose RV living over foster care separation or shelter systems that often split them apart. These children aren't on vacation. They're survivors trapped inside America's affordability collapse. They're part of a silent generation growing up in motion, with no permanent hometown to claim. Perhaps the most shocking part of the crisis is the rise of the working homeless. Over 60% of people living in vehicles have jobs, and more than half work full-time. These are delivery drivers, baristas, Amazon warehouse pickers, health aides, truck drivers, factory staff, teachers' assistants, even nurses. They're employed but still sleeping in cars and RVs because wages no longer align with housing costs. In many cities, a full-time worker earning $17 to $22 hourly brings home $2,800 to $3,200 monthly after taxes, but rent consumes $1,900 to $3,000, leaving nothing for childcare, food, or gas. Housing insecurity isn't limited to the poorest. It's destroying the middle layer of society. Since 2020, the U.S. has added over 5 million new low-wage jobs, but only 600,000 new affordable housing units. A supply and demand disaster with human consequences. Many full-time workers now park outside job sites, sleep at rest stops, or rotate low-cost campgrounds while maintaining employment. This crisis is visible in every region. Booming cities like Austin and Nashville, and smaller towns with exploding rent like Boise, Spokane, and Knoxville. The American dream has inverted. Instead of working your way into housing, millions are working their way out of it. The tragedy isn't unemployment. It's employment without stability or security. How did America fall this far? The answer lies in decades of bad policy. While demand soared, housing construction stagnated. In the past decade, the U.S. needed roughly 7.2 million new affordable housing units to keep prices stable, yet fewer than 1.2 million were built. Restrictive zoning laws blocked duplexes, tiny homes, and mobile home parks in most suburban cities. Large investors, including Wall Street funds, bought hundreds of thousands of houses, converting family homes into rental assets and bidding up prices ordinary buyers can't match. Meanwhile, federal housing vouchers reach only 1 in 4 qualifying families, leaving the rest on endless waiting lists, some 10 years long. The private market is building luxury units, not affordable ones. 93% of new apartments rent at premium rates, designed for high-income tenants. Construction costs spiked due to labor shortages and supply chain chaos, making affordable development even less likely. Add in local resistance to shelters, RV parks, and multifamily buildings, and you have a recipe for collapse. The result is a housing market serving the top 20% while failing the bottom 80%. This structural failure forces millions out of stable homes and directly fuels the rise of RV living, van dwelling, and car camping. America simply didn't build enough shelter, and millions now pay the price in instability and homelessness despite working full-time. Behind every RV parked on a street or Walmart lot is a person carrying emotional weight most of America never sees. Housing instability creates constant anxiety, especially when your home has wheels and can be ordered to move at any moment. Studies show that people experiencing mobile homelessness report stress levels 2 to 3 times higher than housed individuals. Sleep is disrupted by noise, security fears, weather, and police knockdowns at 2 or 3 a.m. Many parents describe staying awake most of the night guarding their family. Depression rates skyrocket. One survey found nearly 70% of vehicle dwellers experience moderate to severe anxiety. The unpredictability is crushing. Every day begins with, where will we park? Will we get ticketed? What if the RV breaks down? Social isolation also hits hard. Many are separated from family, have no permanent address, and lose community ties. Children internalize instability, and seniors feel shame instead of enjoying retirement. Unlike housed populations, mobile dwellers often hide their situation to avoid stigma, giving the illusion everything is fine. Living in motion wears people down. The psychological crisis is now just as dangerous as the financial one. Millions carry an invisible burden simply trying to make it through the night. Mental health deteriorates when basic safety and stability disappear, creating a compound crisis affecting every aspect of life. America is entering a phase that looks less like a temporary spike and more like a permanent reset. If rents continue rising at 5 to 8% annually and wages grow at 2 to 3%, the math guarantees millions more will be priced out every year. Analysts estimate 2 to 4 million additional Americans could enter vehicle living by 2030 if nothing changes. RV manufacturers now openly market rigs as affordable living, and storage yards are turning into micro-communities. Meanwhile, cities fight to sweep campers out, but solve nothing. Unless America massively expands affordable housing, reforms zoning, and raises incomes, RV living will shift from emergency solution to alternate housing system. We're watching a permanent underclass form, people who work, pay taxes, and contribute to society, yet cannot secure a stationary home. The warning signs are everywhere: full RV parks, overcrowded public land, soaring RV foreclosures, and a booming used camper market. The US is quietly transforming into a country where millions live mobile not by choice, but because that's all they can afford. The tough question: is this the beginning of a new American lifestyle, or the symptom of a nation failing its people? The answer may determine whether America addresses this crisis or accepts a permanent class of working Americans living on wheels. This is the biggest housing warning America has ever seen, and most people still don't realize it's happening. Do you think RV living will become the new normal, or is this system about to snap? Tell me in the comments and don't miss our next video, where we break down how working people with full-time jobs are falling into homelessness faster than ever, and what's coming next.